and whatever varna or ashram we may be in, then we please Krishna through that varnashram system. And so here it's said that atapum bedvija shreshta varnashram vibhagasha svanutitasya dharmasya samsiddhi haritoshana. It is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging his prescribed duties, dharma, according to caste divisions and orders of life, is to please Lord Hari. Everyone should act according to his occupational duties just to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then everyone will be happy. So if we want happiness, then we need to really follow this varnashram. And actually Prabhupada wanted to establish varnashram. He said only 50% of his mission was completed. So the other 50% was to establish varnashram, because not everyone is on the same, not everyone is the same, not everyone has the same nature, not everyone has the same propensities. And this notion of equal right is very practical, because like my Guru Maharaj said, we may have the right to play the piano, but not everybody is a Mozart. Not everybody can play it. So we may think we have the right to do certain things, but not everybody is suitable for temple life. Not everyone's suitable for a certain ashram or a certain varna. So we have to really understand where we're actually coming from and what our needs are. That's why we have varnashram, because we all have different material needs, and these needs can be met through the varnashram system. Unless we have our material needs met, we're not going to be happy. So that's why the varnashram is there, because we're not all on the transcendental platform. So we have certain needs that have to be met. So we have different varnas and ashrams where we can have our material needs met, and then we can also focus on spiritual life by pleasing Krishna through that. And then we'll actually be happy and peaceful. Otherwise, if we're not having our needs met, then we're not going to be peaceful and happy. And the ultimate goal of varnashram is that we do all our occupational duties, our prescribed duties, to gain ultimate liberation, which is devotional service to Krishna. So there's a nice verse in the Bhagavatam where it says that if our activities, occupational duties according to varnashram do not provoke attraction for the Lord's messages, then it's shrama eva hi kevalam, which means it's a useless labor. It's only useless labor if it does not provoke attraction for the messages of the personality of Godhead. So this is to emphasize that only bhakti is to be gained by one's prescribed work. Otherwise, that prescribed work is just like useless labor. So the whole point of the varnashram system was to come to this point of devotional service to Krishna through our work, through our varna, through our ashram. And Krishna himself describes this in the Bhagavad Gita in different verses in the 18th chapter. So in verse 41, he says, the duties of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra are prescribed according to the particular modes of nature. So not everyone's under the same mode of nature. Different persons have got different natures, and they're under different modes. So that's why the different varnas and ashrams are there. So Krishna describes in verse 42 that the Brahmanas, their natural qualities are peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, religiousness, and particularly forgiveness is a quality of Brahmanas. And then number 43, Krishna describes what the Kshatriyas have. The qualities are their heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, leadership. These are the natural qualities of Kshatriyas. Vaishyas are cow protection in business, and Shudras is labor and service to others. So that is how the varnas are classified. And the ashrams are brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. So these are the different ashrams that one can fit into. And it's important to actually be in the correct ashram Otherwise, we are not going to be actually happy because our needs will not be met. So we can't pretend to be a sannyasi if we have desires for household life. We can't pretend to be, a brahmachari if we have these propensities. But in the initial stage is training. So the ashrams are there for initial training, especially for brahmacharis, so that they can actually become fixed and trained in devotional service and in giving towards the mission. And then later on, if they decide, they can take household life, or they can continue on brahmachari, they can become Naishtika brahmachari, or they can take sannyas. So depending on their natures or their desires. But that initial training is there through the ashrams. And this was the Vedic system, that the brahmacharis would be sent to the Gurukul. They would be living in an ashram with their guru, and they would be serving as menial servants of the guru. This was the initial training, and they would become austere, tolerant. They would learn all these qualities. And then later on, when they were older, they could take household life, or they can continue serving as missionaries, as brahmacharis. So all these different qualities are there, natural qualities are there in different persons. Some persons are very heroic and determined, and they like to face challenges. They've got leadership qualities. Some people are more into being knowledgeable, they want to perform austerities, they want to be self-controlled, they're religious, peaceful, tolerant. These are the qualities, natural qualities of Brahmanas. And Vaishyas like to protect cows, they like agriculture, they want to do business, trade. All these are symptoms of Vaishyas. They like to make money and sell things, make money, these kind of things. And Shudras is service and labor to others, labor and service to others. So, as in Kali Yuga, everyone's really born as a Shudra, because we don't have there's not been any purificatory processes, no Garbhadan Samskar. So generally, when in the Kali Yuga, there's not really any proper purification system. So we have to work ourselves from this class of where we're not really got any kind of sort of qualities, and build up so we can understand what our natural qualities are. So by the process of Krishna consciousness, we can understand to some degree what our nature is. And most people have got mixed natures. There's not pure Brahmanas or pure Kshatriyas in this age, because we haven't had the samskars from our parents. So generally everyone's mixed, and there isn't really pure Brahmanas, pure Kshatriyas. So we may have certain tendencies, certain qualities, but usually it's a mixture of different ones. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, by following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So, and Prabhupada says, in whatever occupation one may be engaged, if he serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection. So it doesn't really matter what varna we're in, what ashram we're in. As long as we can be engaged in serving Krishna through that work, through that occupation, through that ashram, then we can achieve the highest perfection. And anything done for personal sense gratification is a cause of bondage. And the conclusion is that everyone should be engaged in according to the particular mode of nature he has acquired, and he should decide to work only to serve the supreme cause of the Supreme Lord. So that doesn't mean that everyone just gives everything up and joins the temple. That's not what this is all about. It means that temple life is just a training ground for devotees to understand standards and what to be followed. But most people will need to live outside and do their work, do their perform their duties, prescribed duties, and follow their dharma, you know. And so not everyone is meant to be in the same category of like a missionary. Like missionaries are generally the brahmacharis, or the ones that are fully into the mission of the Lord, temple life, or anyone who's in that missionary mood. So everyone needs to work to maintain themselves according to the natures, and they can offer the fruits of the work to Krishna, or their time, or some time and some energy. So, like we can take the example of Arjuna. He wasn't a brahmana or brahmachari; he was a kshatriya, and he was a householder. And in the beginning of the Gita, he was trying to avoid the fight, fighting his relatives. And so he was inclined to call off the war. He's thinking, if we wanted to simply forgive the Kauravas for all their atrocities, and he wanted to just like be peaceful and go to meditate in the forest. He wanted to avoid doing his duty of fighting. So, forgiveness is for everyone, but especially is a quality of brahmanas. So Arjuna was thinking it was better to forgive and not fight. But by nature, Arjuna was a kshatriya. So by nature, his nature was to fight without flinching or fleeing. So the kshatriyas, they don't flee from battle. They don't flinch at a fight. They don't have post-traumatic syndrome. Like after a fight, they actually like it's a challenge. It's a fight. They're actually led by nature. They can do that. They don't have traumas. That's that. If we have a traumatic syndrome, after a fight, that means we're not actually a kshatriya. The kshatriyas didn't feel like that. So actually, in one sense, Arjuna was thinking, okay, forgiveness is actually better. I'll forgive and not do my duty. And so that's actually on a personal level, we can do that. We have to do that actually. Forgiveness is necessary for Vaishnavas. We have to forgive. But it can't be a state policy. The government can't simply pardon people who have committed wrongs that are legally punishable crimes. Because if the state stopped doing that, if the state stopped doing the duty of punishing the criminals, then the crime will skyrocket. There won't be there'll be chaos in society, and the state will become it won't become a state. It will become like a jungle, because everyone will do whatever they want. So the Kshatriyas have to take up the responsibility of maintaining social order, which means that they don't flinch, when they're confronting wrongdoers. So Arjuna was trying to avoid this necessary duty of fighting his relatives, and instead he was trying to be Brahminical by being forgiving and compassionate. But this was not going to be good for the state. Krishna wanted Arjuna to punish the Kauravas, not sentimentally forgive them. So for the good of the society, this was necessary so that Yudhishthira Maharaj could be enthroned as king and lead the citizens forward to advance in Krishna consciousness. So as long as Duryodhana was on the throne, this wasn't going to happen. So that's why Krishna wanted this war to take place, because it was necessary. So sometimes it's difficult for the managers, because they have to see the overall good of the society. It's not just a personal thing, and they have to protect the society. So in conclusion is that everyone has different natures and propensities that can be used in Krishna's service. So the whole point is to please Krishna with one's prescribed duties and natures, so that actually we can be happy and others can be happy too. Otherwise, there's going to be a dysfunctional society if people don't follow their proper natures and propensities. And that's why there's a lot of chaos in society today, because people are not actually following their propensities and their natures properly. And the wrong people are in the head of the societies. Where it should be proper Kshatriyas, who are qualified Kshatriyas, who have got advice from the Brahmanas. That's actually what Vedic culture was like. Vedic society was that the king was the representative of the Lord. He was to protect the citizens, and he did his duty to help establish Dharma, establish um, the government, to rule and control. And he was advised by Brahmanas, and he was doing this to please Krishna. This was the whole point. It was to help the citizens advance in Krishna consciousness. So he was to make sure that everyone was following their prescribed duties and dharmas and varnas and ashrams. So there was less unhappiness in society in those days, and there was less chaos. But now everything's chaotic because there's not proper varna ashram system. So no one's really following their varna and ashram, and the wrong people are in the wrong ashram and the wrong varnas. So it's like, for example, a firefighter. A firefighter has to go into a fire, into a house where there's fire. Now, most people exit the house, for protection, whereas a firefighter will go into the house to protect. So it's a total opposite. Not everybody can have that nature to go into a fire to protect people. So, but the Kshatriya quality is that they will do that. So a firefighter has a certain nature, he can use that to protect people. So everyone has different natures, So that's why the Varnashram is there. Is there any questions or comments? Yes. Yes. What's best? It's better to engage in one's own occupation, that one. It's better to engage in one's own occupation, that one. Or by worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. So your question is, if somebody is sacrificing their life for the cause of the good for other people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Krishna gives many different. Krishna is very accommodating, so he gives the process of bhakti, and he says, if you can't do this, and if you can't do this, do this, and if even if you can't do that, then it's better to sacrifice your life for some good cause. So that will purify us, because it's like selflessness. It helps us develop the selflessness, because as long as we're selfish, we're going to end up entangled in this material world. So to help us become selfless, even if it's not Krishna as the supreme cause, as long as it's some sort of cause which is helping them to become selfless, eventually they'll come to the point of devotional service, because they're developing the selfless mood. Well, it's not actually bhakti, because bhakti only refers to devotional service to Krishna, really. But you can say that they're very devoted. But bhakti is really specifically, meant for Krishna, isn't it? But you could say that you're very devoted to understand. They still have to understand what the ultimate goal is. It doesn't really work that, okay, they're selflessly serving, but it doesn't come to the point. It's not like, because unless we have pure faith is the start of pure devotion. We can't have pure devotion unless we have pure faith. You see, so there has to be some faith in Krishna consciousness, otherwise they're not going to be able to. That's why we need Guru. Because then you will understand what your prescribed duty is. So that's why we have Guru, so that we're kept on the proper path, so we don't fall astray and deviate. So if we follow Guru, then we're safe, because then we know that's pleasing Krishna. And like Arjuna wanted to do something else, but he's accepted Krishna as his Guru. So Krishna's telling him, you have to fight, you have to do your duty. And Arjuna's trying to avoid that. You see, so Krishna keeps bringing this up many, many times through the Bhagavad Gita, that you have to do your prescribed duty of fighting. And that's why Krishna is trying to emphasize, it's not like we all are Kshatriyas and we all have to fight, but the whole point is Krishna is trying to explain that we have to do our duty, our prescribed duty, to whatever it is.
Also, it's explained that there's vision tattva, jiva tattva, and bhuta tattva. And the jiva tattva is being directed by vision tattva, so Krishna will speak through the jiva, also just in this here, in closer to Krishna's lips, and you don't have that, you just have mind tattva, and you can have all kinds of things going on. And maybe it will all by intention, but you may end up with your so-called intentions to show capacity. When it comes to the approach, as a kind of reach the station, it is not pleased, which is not pleased. The intention to this is that it is not being the purpose of having one purpose of the same as all life.
Yes, sir.
How are you supposed to follow that constantly without your deviation
What const-
like the devotee wants to constantly serve Krishna and everybody else Krishna desires. So how are we supposed to do that constantly without being deviated?
That's why we have to chant offenselessly, because by offenseless chanting, we can actually come to the point of pure devotion. And the offenseless chanting can give us so much faith as well, because initially when we chant, when we first start chanting, then because we're not committing any offenses, we get this strong faith, because Krishna's in the heart. He gives us a strong faith, and then we take up Krishna consciousness. But then we start either becoming complacent, or we start committing offenses, and then we start losing that taste. So it's very important that we understand what the offenses are and we avoid them. That's why we chant this 10 offenses against the holy name every morning, so we're reminded of what we shouldn't be doing, so that we can stop from deviating from the path. Because Maya is very strong, and unless we're strictly following, then there's so many things can come into the mind, and they seem spiritual, they may seem really good, but still it's a deviation. So that's why sometimes it's very important to follow the instructions of the spiritual master, because he knows what's best for us. He's a mouthpiece of Krishna. Krishna speaks through the Guru. So if the Guru wants you to do something, you may not feel like you want to do it, but if the Guru says we should do this, then we should do it. There's that story, right, of the tapeworm. So there was one man who had some problem with he was losing all energy. He was very, very weak, and nobody knew what was wrong with him. So Jesus told this man, and he hadn't eaten for months, I don't know, for weeks, whatever. He was totally emaciated. So Lord Jesus told him to get some milk with honey in it, a bowl of milk with honey. And they told some people to put it in front of his face, but he's not allowed to drink it. He was fasting, and he has to continue fasting, and he's got this bowl of milk with some honey in it, and he wants to drink it, but he can't because Jesus is telling him, don't drink it. So how long was this? This was for a day or something. He was holding it for, I don't know how long. Yeah, so after fasting for 3 days, he had to hold this bowl of milk and honey in front of his face. And no matter, he couldn't drink it. So Jesus says, don't drink it, just wait. And so he waited. And as he waited, this tapeworm came out of his mouth to drink the milk. And that was the problem. That's why he was so sick, because he had a tapeworm. He was taking all the nutrition out of all the food that he was eating. So then Jesus pulled the tapeworm out and threw it away. And then he told the disciple, now drink the milk. So because he followed, then he got rid of that tapeworm, and then he got his nutrition back. Everything functioned better. But somebody would have said, well, what's the point of putting that there? Why follow that? When the mind wants to drink the milk, then they want to drink the milk, right? But because he followed the spiritual master's instructions, then he was saved ultimately. So that's why sometimes it doesn't seem like, why is the spiritual master telling me to do this? It doesn't seem, I have certain needs, I need to do this. But no, the spiritual master, we have to follow him because it's for our benefit, for our good, for our ultimate good. So, some disciples, Prabhupada told them to go and preach, all over the world. Some disciples, he told them to manage. Some disciples, he told them to do other things. He didn't tell everyone to do the same thing. So not everyone's meant to do the same thing. Everyone's got different propensities and natures. Yes.
That's the position I'm in. I need to start moving into this bit. Psychic tapeworms in my body that I want to come out. But because I'm familiar with the process and I've been practicing for like 38 years, and I'm used to that kind of level of austerity that I'm really determined. I've been practicing for it. But for someone who's just beginning, who hasn't had that experience of like the value of following something very strictly, and I think it's important that if they're feeling it's like really like painful, they're wondering whether they would die or something like that, but they may be thinking, I have to follow spiritual master, I have to follow spiritual master. And it's also the case that they should approach the spiritual master and say, look, I feel like I'm going to die, what should I do? And it's like,
well, that's up to the disciple. That's up to the disciple to do that, to discuss it with the spiritual master.
Yeah, no, but if we just promote the idea that we have to follow the spiritual master and not pass from death or something like that. I mean, that's what, it's just in one sense, that's what Jesus was saying to him. He was already emaciated.
Yeah, I do think we have to search out the class. I think it's nice to be careful on the text. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, Mercy.
When you're staying in an ashram and you're given things, duties that are outside of our partner.
Well, in devotional service, we'll do anything for Krishna. So that's the mood we have to bring up, develop, is that whatever Krishna wants, we'll do that. It's beyond Varnashram. Serving Krishna is not within Varnashram, it's beyond it. It's transcendental. And that's what we have to learn, because ultimately we want to surrender to Krishna. So whatever it is he wants us to do, we're ready to do that, whether it's in our nature or not. So we have to go beyond that. The Varnashram system's there to please Krishna, but then if we do something that's like, it's an emergency situation, so we do that. It's maybe not our nature to do that. Like, it's not my nature to sing, but I'll do it if I have to. it's not my nature to do certain things, but I'll do it because it's pleasing Krishna. It's necessary. It's needed. So, and also we make the advancement by surrendering to something that we don't really want to do. If we only do things that we like to do, then where's the surrender?
But what if you stayed in ashrams for like 10+ years and you're always given things that are not part of your nature? Would that eventually lead to like burnout and like uninspiring opportunities?
I'm sure there's things that you get given that you like to do as well. It's like a mixture. It can't be only things that you don't like doing.
Basically, the Shiva is found Shiva, not to break down the so it's only about 6 months in celebration service to get the message of Shiva. So we can look at externally what's going on. We should also look at internally. Why is the Krishna service instead of where we found some consolation for making facilities? It's a mind that's lost confidence, so the swelling and mental isolation, so all kinds of things that are going on, and that's causing our inability to interact with the environment properly. So the first challenge for the mentality is he's not trying to see Krishna's face, he's trying to see Krishna's hand. He's trying to see the business of the arrangement in this situation, what things that happens, and that's your proactive job to work on trying to match up what's going on and what I need. And it's self-realization, you go out there, you can't blame anybody else, if it all goes wrong, it isn't because this person there's something's not processed. Because when you get into the finish the whole opportunity now, you're on the cusp of reaching the great taste, and everything's chips or building something or doing something or there's some mistakes and appreciation.
Also, it's purification, because Krishna consciousness is to help us to come to the point of being humble and tolerant and all these saintly qualities. So, it may be not in our nature to do certain things, but we do things not for ourselves, but to please Krishna, to please the devotees, to please Guru. So, and that helps us to become humble, you see. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be trying to become humble and accepting whatever comes, and seeing that as part of the purification that we need to go through.
If you're inspired and you, even though you do some things that you may not want to do, you prefer to do things over other things, but if you're inspired and you can see the bigger picture in how movement, then you would do whatever is necessary to just keep that inspiration going, and then maybe inspire other people to just do whatever is necessary.
Okay, thank you. Let's stop there. ISKCON Govinda ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shish Godin Dai Mai Prashish ki jai.